It's a race against time. The ambulance is rushing to save a life, the sound of its sirens echoing through the city, but there's an unexpected obstacle in its path. A dog, standing firm, unwavering, directly in front of the ambulance, refusing to move. The drivers honk their horns, shouting through the window, urging the dog to get out of the way. Yet the dog, Max, doesn't budge. What could possibly make a dog act like this, blocking an ambulance on its mission to save a life? Is it simply a stubborn animal, or is there something more to this situation? You won't believe the heartbreaking reason behind his actions. Stay with us, because what happens next will move you in ways you could never expect. The ambulance races through the busy streets, its sirens cutting through the chaos of honking horns and confused pedestrians. The emergency lights flash as the paramedics inside focus on the patient, trying to reach the hospital before it's too late. They weave through the traffic, the urgency palpable, every moment crucial in their life-saving mission. But as the vehicle moves forward, something unexpected happens. There's a dog standing in the way. The paramedics frantically try to get around, but Max, the dog, remains unmoved, blocking the path with quiet resolve. The drivers are growing impatient, shouting out the windows, urging the dog to move. Time is ticking, but Max doesn't respond. He just stands there, eyes fixed ahead, as if he's guarding something, protecting something far more important than anyone can understand at that moment. With every passing second, the tension builds. The ambulance crew is visibly frustrated, their mission now at risk because of a dog that won't budge. Onlookers begin to gather, some shouting at the dog, others confused and wondering why he's acting this way. But no one knows yet. No one knows what Max is truly protecting and why this moment means so much to him. This isn't just any dog. This is Max, and there's a story behind his actions. One that's about love, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond. Max wasn't always the confident, brave dog you see standing in front of that ambulance. In fact, his journey to this moment was a struggle, a fight for survival, and a search for someone to trust. It all started when Max was just a stray, wandering the streets alone with no one to care for him. He was skinny, covered in dirt, and hungry, barely surviving each day. He had been abandoned, left to fend for himself, and the world seemed cold and unforgiving. But then came Mary, an elderly woman with a heart full of kindness. She found Max one cold winter evening, shivering and alone, and without a second thought, she took him in. Mary gave Max the love he had never known, offering him a warm bed, food, and most of all, companionship. In return, Max became her constant shadow, never leaving her side. They formed a bond that was unbreakable. Mary wasn't just a caretaker, she was his family, his protector, the one person he trusted above all others. As the years passed, Max and Mary shared countless memories. Walks in the park, quiet evenings at home, and moments of pure joy. Max learned what it meant to be loved, and what it meant to love in return. But what Mary didn't know at the time was that one day, it would be Max who would need to protect her. It was an ordinary day when everything changed. Mary, like many days before, was in her living room enjoying a cup of tea, while Max lay at her feet, content and calm. But then, something went wrong. Mary suddenly felt weak, her vision blurred, and before she could call out for help, she collapsed to the floor. Max, startled and scared, rushed to her side, his ears perked up, his eyes wide with confusion. Without thinking, Max did what he had always done for Mary. He stayed close, never leaving her side. But this time, something felt different. Something was terribly wrong. Max, sensing the urgency of the moment, bolted to the front door, pawing at it with frantic energy, trying to get out. He needed help, but he didn't know how to call for it. Max ran to the neighbor's house, barking wildly, trying to communicate the emergency. The neighbor, alarmed, immediately called an ambulance, and soon the sirens could be heard in the distance. Max's relief was short-lived, though, as the reality of what was happening began to sink in. Mary wasn't just unwell. She needed help right now. The ambulance arrived and Max followed it, his instincts pushing him forward, ensuring that the paramedics would get to her quickly. But as they neared the hospital, Max made a choice. He wasn't going to let the ambulance pass without him. He wasn't going to leave her side. Not now, not ever. As the ambulance neared the hospital, every moment felt like an eternity. The paramedics inside worked swiftly, their faces tense with the pressure of saving a life. But Max, unwavering and resolute, stood firmly in front of the vehicle, blocking its path. The sirens screamed louder, the horns of frustrated drivers blaring in the background, but Max didn't flinch. He was determined, his eyes locked on the ambulance, as if he knew that the only thing that mattered was the woman inside. The paramedics, growing desperate, tried everything to get around him. They honked the horn, shouted through the windows, and even tried to drive slowly around the dog, but Max stood his ground. He wasn't moving, not until he was sure they would reach Mary. He wasn't just any dog, he was her protector, her lifeline, and today he was going to make sure that she didn't face this alone. For the onlookers, it was baffling. Why was this dog standing in the way? Didn't he understand the urgency? But to Max, there was no question. Mary needed him, and nothing would stand in his way, not even an ambulance on a mission to save lives. Max's loyalty and love were his driving forces. He wasn't just a dog, he was a guardian, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. He would block the ambulance if it meant keeping her safe. Finally, the paramedics realized what was happening. They could see the dog's determination, and slowly, they began to understand that Max wasn't just being stubborn, he was protecting the woman who had given him everything. He wasn't going to let anyone pass unless he knew Mary was safe. The realization hit the crew hard, and they paused, their mission now entwined with Max's quiet heroism. The moments stretched on as Max stood there, still and unwavering. The paramedics exchanged glances, trying to assess what to do next. Finally, one of them got out of the ambulance, walking slowly toward Max, speaking softly to him as if trying to reassure him. But Max didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the vehicle, on the team of people inside who were working tirelessly to save the life of the woman he loved more than anything. It wasn't until they reached the hospital that Max finally stepped aside. But he didn't go far. His eyes never left the ambulance as it pulled into the emergency bay, and neither did his heart. He had done what he needed to do. He had protected Mary. Inside the ambulance, the paramedics were already tending to Mary. The scene was frantic, but despite the chaos, there was a sense of calm that came over everyone when they saw Mary's condition stabilize. And there, standing at the door, was Max, watching intently, still refusing to leave her side. Slowly, the team understood what had just transpired. The realization hit them all at once. Max wasn't just a dog, he was a guardian. He had fought to protect the one person who had shown him love, the person who had given him a second chance at life. And today, in his own way, Max had made sure she wouldn't face this battle alone. As the paramedics worked on Mary, they couldn't help but marvel at the bond between the two. It was a bond so powerful, so pure, that not even the urgency of an ambulance could break it. Max had done what many humans wouldn't even consider. He had blocked the way, not out of stubbornness, but out of pure, unconditional love. And in that moment, it was clear that Max's loyalty had saved her life in a way no one had ever expected. Hours passed, and the hospital staff worked tirelessly to ensure Mary received the care she desperately needed. Max, never straying far, sat outside the room where they were tending to her, his eyes never leaving the door. He waited patiently, his body tense with the worry only a loyal companion could understand. Finally, the moment arrived. Mary was stable, her breathing was steady, and the doctors were confident she would make a full recovery. The weight of the ordeal lifted, but not for Max. His job was far from done. As the door opened and Mary was wheeled out of the intensive care unit, her eyes locked with Max's. The look they exchanged was one of deep understanding, of love and gratitude. Max rose to his feet, his tail giving a slight wag, the first sign of relief since the ambulance had arrived. Mary, though weak, reached out her hand, and Max immediately trotted over to her, resting his head gently in her lap. The bond between them, forged through years of unconditional love and care, had only grown stronger. They had been through so much together, and now, after everything, they were finally reunited. As Mary stroked his fur, she whispered softly to him, her voice filled with emotion. "You saved me, didn't you, Max?" Her words hung in the air, as if acknowledging the sacrifice he had made to keep her safe. Max responded with a gentle nuzzle, his way of saying, "I'll always be here." They walked out of the hospital together, side by side, as they had always done. Max, the brave dog who had blocked an ambulance for love, now led Mary into a new chapter of their life, one where they both knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The bond between them was unshakable, and their love unstoppable. It was a story of loyalty, sacrifice, and the incredible strength of an animal's heart. As Mary and Max left the hospital, the world outside seemed brighter, more hopeful. The ordeal had been intense, but their bond was stronger than ever. With every step they took together, it was clear that Max's love and loyalty had made all the difference. Not only had he protected Mary in a moment of crisis, but he had also shown us the true power of a companion's heart, a love so deep that it could stop an ambulance in its tracks. Their story is a reminder that animals are more than just pets. They are family, guardians, and in some cases, heroes. Max's actions weren't just about protecting his owner. They were a testament to the bond that can form between humans and animals, a bond that goes beyond words and transcends any challenge life throws their way. If Max's story touched your heart, consider sharing it with others. There are countless animals like Max who need a second chance, just as Mary once gave him. If you're inspired by their bond, take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that show the power of love, loyalty, and bravery. And if you're thinking about adopting or supporting an animal in need, there are many shelters and organizations that could use your help. Every small act can make a world of difference, just like Max made in Mary's life. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most heroic acts come from the most unexpected places.